What is up, crypto junkies? Coming at you with another crypto news video. Let's get right into it. If you weren't familiar already, maybe you're living under a rock, maybe you don't, maybe you're not on Twitter. The NPC meme is taking over. So this is, what does that stand for? Non-player, I don't know, participating character or something like that? It's essentially what's been the main reason for a ton of Twitter banning. And so it's obviously turned into a meme that has come into the crypto space. Well done, Roger Ver, well done. Okay, let's headline hunt for a second and then we'll get into some actual news clips. The Financial Action Task Force has introduced changes to its anti-money laundering and terrorism financing rules covering digital currency related firms. Yay! Not really. I'll probably get into that one more in a future video. Second piece I want to talk about, the government and University of Gibraltar have created an advisory group to address the demand for new educational courses in smart contracts, blockchain technology. Well, here's the thing though. Is public school systems good? No. So I've never really, like after I got out of that, I never again paid for education. I'd much rather buy a digital training course from somebody that's created it online because it's so much more impactful to get taught and trained by somebody who's actually in it. And the longer they've been in it, the better they're able to describe it. That's the only thing that I'd say is tough sometimes with getting a digital training course, is that they might not be a great teacher. They know the subject matter really, really well, but they might not be a great teacher. So the way that they describe it and their method and process might be not a good way for you to digest that. So that's the only kind of disconnect you get with something like that. More people claiming this is the last low before the high in Bitcoin. Many are also saying, no, it's gonna go lower, 48, 5,200. Then we're gonna finally take off. So it's the same conversation. Nothing's really changed. While it's ranging right now at about 65. Some positive news, CEOs, a couple other big talking heads saying huge potential for blockchain, not necessarily crypto. Mike Novogratz saying that he believes, just to touch on it wouldn't be a day without us touching on the Tether FUD, would it? Mike Novogratz believes that, look, there's a 1-to-1 ratio. He believes that they're holding the money. I believe that there is a substantial amount of unsubstantiated claims against Bitfinex and Tether, and it's really just because they're doing it so differently and they're lacking so much transparency that I think that that's bothering a lot of people in the industry, a lot of crypto people in the industry. Tether has paid out over $700 million seamlessly, so that's something to keep in mind. All right, on to the next story though. Let's talk something really cool. So this is a emergence that I really want you to focus on and keep in the back of your mind. Off-grid crypto transactions. That was done not quite with a hand radio, but gosh, close. Radio signals from these kind of portable antennas called GoTenna allowed a transaction of 12.6 kilometers or 7.8 miles away to occur with no cell network and no internet connection. That is cool. And here's why it's cool, is because we actually do need this. Like if internet went away or if something happened and all the networks were down, you still got to operate. You still got to be able to send money. And being able to send it through an old school antenna like, you know, Morse code or something would just be amazing. Would absolutely be amazing. And I do believe that it is positioned well enough to send it through low frequency antenna like that. I don't know how well, with new technology applied to the old things, I don't know how well and if it'll actually be able to get to that point. But man, really hopeful for that, because it means so much, I guess, if you're not catching on to that, is it means so much to be able to send a transaction offline. It is actually insane to think about that, because then there's really no stopping it. And then if you could create a system that would then be really cheap for individuals to use and have as a backup plan, then the grid never stops. So really, really great news. $571 million by the North Korean hacker group. They've done really well. This is by a report done by Group. Is that IB or 1B? I think it's IB. Widely considered one of the leading cybersecurity companies in the world. Award-winning, in fact. They've been putting together this research on this unknown criminal group. What is their actual name? They don't know. It's just, we're calling them unknown, I guess. Okay. Wow. I mean, impressive. $571 million. It's a pretty good amount of life-changing money. Oh, sorry. Credit where credit's due. They're called the Lazarus Group. The group of hackers known as the Lazarus Group is notoriously exclusive and no significant tally can be made. How many members are involved? Still 80 million back in 2016. The reason why I talk about this stuff often is the hacks, is because you got to understand that cryptocurrency still really isn't that safe. Your stuff can get hacked. I think if you do the right things and you got your backups and you got your backups of your backups and you're not using the same passwords and you're using super strong passwords and you're changing your passwords constantly, like you're doing all the regular stuff, I think you're fine. And I think it's safe. But the problem is most people aren't doing that. And because they've gotten away with doing that in other areas and other financial instruments, they think that they can do that here in crypto, and you just can't. And this is proof of that. So the pain, you gotta go through the pain sometimes and bring that up in order for people to, pain helps create change. And I hope that people see stats like this and like, it scares them into doing something more, backing up and doing all the right things. The onslaught and the explosion of crypto hedge funds in 2017 was pretty good, but in 2018, it's been much bigger. So what is this, 198 in 2017, and so far 220 funds have opened in 2018. But why are they closing? There's a lot that are closing and shutting their doors. And you know, the most obvious answer would be, well, because we're at like, not all-time lows, but okay, so average altcoin is like 80% down for the year, 86% down for the year. Average ICO is like 90 something percent down for the year, and against all-time highs. Okay, so we're down 80-90% from all-time highs. That doesn't look good, but it's because, so the 2% management fee is standard across the board, but they also have an incentive fee, and that's based on there's a clause in the contract a lot of times that they have to do better than the previous year. Here's the example. If they had a 10 million assets under their management and they grew it to 20 million in 2017, that would be fat. That'd be great. That'd be 2 million in an incentive fee. But that means that they would have to do better than 20 million by the end of 2018 to get that again. And that's just not possible for a lot of them. So that's why they're closing the doors. So yes, is that directly related to us being down? Yes, it is. But that's not like the black and white answer. It's because of that that's affected something else that's built into these crypto hedge funds that is now, it's not worth it. The performance is down. So some things that they can do, and this is all written and talked about by this guy here, crypto personality. What's his name? Pompeo? Pomp. Anthony Pomp. You can raise new capital. You can ride the market out. Hope 2019 is better, or we finish up 2018 strong, which I know a couple of friends that are actually managing funds, substantial amount. We talk about this on a fairly regular basis. And this is really the three options that you have. I would completely agree with this. Is the third option would be to close the fund. So anyways, what I want to tell you is that here's how I put it to him, is I just said, look, everyone knows it's down. I think that your guys who gave you money obviously don't feel that it's going to go down to zero. Otherwise they would have never invested to begin with. You got to tell them to just ride it out. Like, they trusted you with the money at one point. Like, that shouldn't really change. And there really is no other option. Like, the other option would be to just take losses and actually ink those losses in now and close it out. We've shown strong support at the price points that we're at. Like, let's use logic in this. We've shown strong support through 6,000. If we're not like down in 2,000 and 3,000, that's when these guys would probably panic. If there wasn't some immediate price action showing a reversal, or some immediate indication showing a reversal in price action, they'd freak out, and that would be bad. And I don't know what I would say there. Probably have to deal with it as it comes, right? But they might as well just stay the course and see how the next quarter brings us, you know, by the end of 2018. Then let's reassess. Let's have a conversation. I would even venture to ask for the first quarter of 2019 and see how that goes. But anyway, so my point is that while it seemed like a great idea, I think for a lot of people and a lot of amateurs kind of jumped into this game that had never run funds before, a lot of them are getting squeezed out. So 198 opened in 2017, 220 in 2018. This is a projected number, but I think a lot of them are going to be closing their doors. Interesting to see. Moving into the next piece, let's, it's been a while since we talked about Venezuela, so let's catch up on this and what's going on there, okay? Here's what we got. There's this announcement that was done on October 18th, and I didn't actually see this because it didn't really blow up in my news feed, and I don't have alerts set on this, so I'm not paying super close attention. But I know that he's playing around with the petro-backed crypto that is petro oil and gold. He's trying to incorporate gold in there as well. Essentially what he's done is he's called on workers to save in gold and the petro. Going to do a bonus payment in the upcoming weeks based on petro rather than fiat. That's interesting. Man, I think that the whole Venezuela situation is getting a lot more criticism than it really deserves. And I think there's a lot of truth not being talked about. And it just reminds me of so many situations we've seen over and over and over again where the United States just accuses them of being a dictator, being a communist, being a socialist, being a fascist, being a whatever, IST, and then that stops them and it affects them negatively. So we've seen this happen in the past, and I just think that we're not getting the full story. We're not getting the full story on the negative powers that don't want to see this. Let's be honest here. It's in the bank's best interest, centralized banking, let's call that its own group. You want to call it a cartel, you want to call it the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really matter. It's a group of people who have a vested interest to keep the whole world using fiat. And then we shuffle around that debt. People got to buy the treasury bonds. People got to buy buy the brand new fiat dollars that are printed. People got to buy into that. They got to hold that debt and they got to keep it. So for that whole system to keep going, which very similar to a pyramid structure, very similar to a Ponzi too. For that whole thing to keep going, everyone has to keep using fiat because, and what the risk here is that the minute that somebody steps away from fiat, other countries will, and the whole thing will collapse. So then bonuses go away, maybe temporarily, maybe for a long time, and all of that. So it's just fear, the fear and greed model taking over again. So I think that we're really not getting a large part of the story going on here with Maduro and Venezuela. I'm interested to see how this works out. I know Dash has had a big presence in Venezuela. There's been a few other cryptocurrencies trying to really step in and help. The situation is still in really rough shape. And that is true when you transition and pivot out of a fiat into something else. Like, let's be honest and obvious here is that when the United States is faced with that, and when all these other major countries are faced with that, it probably won't be a smooth transition. And that's just how it goes. So keep that in mind, okay? Keep that in mind with your plan and everything else that you want to do. But anyways, what he said is, I call on workers to invest a part of their bonuses in the gold savings plan. Come here legally, you'll have work certificate, invest in Petros, strengthen the family economy. What's interesting about this is Turkey, I think, is playing around with this as well, is a kind of gold certificate that you can cash out in a couple years. And so it's like a savings plan that they hold on to. And I'm just wondering how the payout structure will go on that and what that'll actually entail. But I like the fact that he's incorporating gold. Like, you got to give him credit overall for just trying to get away from a fiat that, you know, this isn't the first time Venezuela's been in trouble. And again, I think that's really hard for the general public to see, because when fear and panic, you know, kicks in and the stores are empty, it's really easy to start pointing fingers, and it's really hard to stay true to what maybe the goal is. And then add on top of that, maybe the president isn't being crystal clear about what the goal is and what they're trying to do. Maybe that's a disconnect between what we're getting over here in America with American news and what's actually going on. I don't know. That's the last story that I wanted to end this with and give you guys today. So that's all we got. What I'd love is if you could just take a second and click the like button. And then if this is your first time to the channel, go ahead and subscribe and click the bell notification so that you get more of our updates going on in the channel. And be on the lookout because we'll be uploading more crypto news very, very soon, my friends. See ya.